Have you seen? Cool. Awesome. So have you seen a for sale sign and your heart drops because you know what's a coming? You know what's coming. Well, I talk about my wife. I talk about my wife a lot. On this date, 15 April 2019, so a few years ago, we saw a picture of this on the news. If you're not familiar, that's Notre Dame Cathedral. May I ask, has anyone visited Notre Dame Cathedral before? Would you mind telling us, what is it? Yeah. Yeah, regal. Oh, I like that word. My wife called it magnificent. When this happened, when this was on the news, she started crying. And I said, what are you crying about? It's a building. Again, we go to therapy all the time. But what are you crying about? It's a building. It's just a building. After she yelled at me and told me why she was crying, she's visited it before, I have not. She talked about, the planning of this started in like 900, the year 900. The history that occurred, around the planet at that time, incredible stuff. And I started to make sense of, the emotion that occurred here. I live in Fort Worth, on the east side of Fort Worth, almost in Arlington. This isn't a picture of it, but it's pretty similar. Over there off John T. White, there was a place that I was driving by, and there was a spot just like this. Lovely little blue stem over there. Incredible, just incredible. And I remember driving by that and kind of bad traffic. There's a school zone, and also there's some stop signs and stuff. So it's a slow trip. So it gives you time to kind of glance over and look at that. When I was looking at a field like this, I got the same sort of experiences that my wife had when she visited Notre Dame, thinking of the history there. I was thinking of the indigenous folks, maybe tracking buffalo in that area or game. Maybe the species of grasshoppers that have existed there for millennia. We love to hug our trees. We love to see our big trees. This population of little bluestem, thousands of years old. Thousands of years old. The natural history that has occurred here. I go a week later, and it's leveled. That spot of the millennia of relationships leveled in a week. In a week. Before we throw stones, I'm not living in a ground hut. I had to drive here. We're doing our classes here. Do you know what was here 1,000 years ago, a couple hundred years ago? What was here? That's a big bluestem, I bet. Lovely big bluestem. Maybe some cross timbers area, a post oak savanna, maybe a pocket prairie right here of thousands of species and relationships. So before we throw stones at the development in urban areas, recognize where we live, recognize that we drive here, recognize we need roads to drive in different places, but it still sucks. Your heart still sinks when we see things like this. And the truth of the matter is, what is more valuable to the city of Fort Worth? This little lovely prairie, or having a few new families live in that area, a few new people that are paying taxes? It's debatable. I know it's debatable there on what value is, but there is this definition of progress, that more people get value from a Walmart than they do walking out in some weeds. And really, that's what we're faced with. So there's the definition of progress that we are wrestling with right now. Aldo Leopold, if you're not familiar with this guy, you will be if you read some of the book. He is, father of game management, father of wildlife management, father of wildlife biology, basically. Has a lot of quotes. This is one of them. Not to patronize you, but I'm going to read this slowly. He says, one of the penalties of an ecological education, read Master Naturalist Training, is that one lives alone in a world of wounds. Much of the damage inflicted on land is quite invisible to the layman. An ecologist, read master naturalist, must either harden his or her shell and make believe that the consequences of science are none of his or her business, or he or she must be the doctor who sees the marks of death in a community that believes itself well and does not want to be told otherwise. I like what you said. Was that a damn that I heard? Yeah. Dang, close enough. It's like, Aldo Leopold, dude, what a buzzkill. Don't invite him to the next party. Man, whoa. But man, is this true? Is this true? It's the same sort of thing. And I know you have felt it. I know you felt it when you drive by an area that was a forest or a lovely prairie, and a week later it is leveled. Although Leopold mentions this, he's talking about this same sort of thing, that some people would say, whoa, sweet, discount prices, and not recognize, just as I didn't recognize the tears that came from the loss of history with this, the same sort of natural history that's at threat with that. He mentions this. He's talking about this, that when we start to see things differently as naturalists, master naturalists, or just people that like nature, it hurts. It sucks. It can suck the joy out of your life seeing these sort of things and then getting hammered over and over with it. You know, that spot off John T. White, they're developing the other side now. The other side of the road, they've got the for sale signs and they're developing it. I know it's going to keep on happening. This gets passed around whenever there's a horrible thing that occurs on Facebook or social media or whatever. Mr. Rogers' mom talks about this same sort of thing. She said, or this is the quote that Mr. Rogers has, "When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping." In this sixth great extinction, Mr. Rogers' mom is talking about us. She's talking about us. When these horrible things happen to the ecosystem, she's talking about us. The Master Naturalist organization is a volunteer organization. Our activities, what we do as Master Naturalists, can and do influence policy. They make a difference. Peter Marshall says, small deeds done are better than great deeds planned. We're the doers. We are the helpers. As Master Naturalists, that's who we are. What are the things that we do? We remove invasive species. Anybody here know what privet is? Have you heard of privet? Yeah, a privet. Good. You remember privet. Show me your hands. Just one hand. Show me a hand. Okay. Whenever we talk about privet, here's what we need to do. I want you to curl your hand up like this and go privet. Okay, do it with me. Privet. Privet. And here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, we have 4 species of privets: Quijo, we have Sinense, we have Japonica, and we have Lucidum. All not native species, all horribly invasive. Next time you go to River Legacy, look around, and it's just being monopolized by privet. One of the things that we do as Master Naturalists is we remove privet. We break our backs removing privet. And I'll be honest with you here. When I've done this, gosh, it hurts. I've got this privet puller. It's this tool that you basically yank back like that to yank it up from the ground. I hate that tool because it hurts. It hurts your back. I'll pull a privet on a weekend. I will come back a few weeks later and guess what? A little privet. But guess what I do? I pull up those little privets those little tiny privets. It feels like an exercise in futility, but I keep doing it. I keep doing it. If I'm lucky enough to be able to put some new plants in the ground, I'll toss some native plants in there, some coralberry or some, blue stems or whatever, frostweed. Toss some of these native perennials in there to put in some competition. It's a heartbreaker when I come back and it's all new privet, but I come back out with my tool, worthy to break my back on it. This is what we do. Anybody here, show of hands, how many of you like working with kids? Show of hands, how many of you don't like working with kids? Okay, if you don't like working with kids, I challenge you, try to work with kids. And it's funny what happens. I do like working with kids, but I've worked with people that don't like working with kids. And especially if you'll get opportunities to go out with kids and go out to the prairies and field trips and all that sort of stuff with a group of kids. If you get that opportunity, Brentano, it's a cool experience. When you got a group of kids that come with you to a bird blind area or to a little tree house area and you can talk about birds, it's a cool experience. One of my favorite experiences, and again, this is not a toot my own horn sort of thing, but at Oliver Nature Park, we had a group of kindergartners come out, a group of 80 kindergartner kids. I don't know if you may have been there, probably was there at this thing. But early that morning, I basically decimated a population of frogs. I got a lot of tadpoles out, got a whole bunch of tadpoles out. And for each of the little kids at that one station, the little kids would hold a little tadpole in their hands. Yes. And there are a few things that are beautiful in the world. One of them is to see a little kid's eyes light up with that wriggling thing that will metamorphosize to grow legs and will jump out. I recognize that not all of those kids are going to be herpetologists. I recognize that, but those kids grow up to vote on something. They'll grow up to make decisions. And maybe some of these experiences influence their decisions or change the way they view the world. It's a beautiful experience. I encourage you, when there's opportunities to work with kids, try it. Try it. It's the best thing in the world. Our current voters, our current policy deciders, our current policy writers need some education too. So this is another opportunity that we have to work with our fellow neighbors, work with our community members that may be our same age, adults that are making decisions, going out with them, looking at different bugs and plants. A good friend here, Bob Ritchie, sorry you can't see his lovely mustache. Here he's got a big one of those handlebar mustaches that goes up. He does a lot of foraging talks. So we go out and we forage, we pick up stuff and eat it. Great fun. And a lot of people come to those walks. I mentioned earlier, citizen or community or collaborative science. You can do this. You can definitely do this. Who cares? Who cares? Who the F cares? And I saw one hand go up. Me too. I do too. If I were to walk around TCU and talk to 10 revenue units, 10 students there, how many of them would care about Dahlia reversionii? How many of them would care about a cricket that eats ant turds? And honestly, did you? I asked if anybody had heard of that cricket before. None of your hands went up. That little cricket could have been gone without you recognizing it. Are you sure you cared about something you didn't even know existed? This is the big question. The question here is relevancy. Who cares about your favorite bug, your favorite bird, your favorite plant, that ecosystem? Who cares? As master naturalists, this is our challenge. This is the challenge that we face. And I'll be honest, we need you. We need you to face this together as part of this community. I'm going to end, if you'll indulge me for a few minutes. There's a little story that I'd like to say, and we'll end with this too. This is a parable. It's written about a little hummingbird. So if you'll indulge me for a few minutes here. It starts. The terrible fire raged and burned. All of the animals were afraid and fled from their homes. The elephant and the tiger, the beaver and the bear all ran, and above them even the birds flew in a panic. They huddled at the edge of the forest and watched. All of the creatures gathered except one. Only Duk-Duk-Dia, the little hummingbird, would not abandon the forest. Duk-Duk-Dia flew quickly to the stream. She picked up a single drop of water in her beak. Duk-Duk-Dia flew back and dropped the single bead of water onto the fire. Again, she flew down to the stream and brought back another drop. And so she continued back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The other animals watched Duk-Duk-Dia's tiny body fly against the enormous fire, and they were frightened. They called out to the little hummingbird, warning her of the dangers of the smoke and the heat. "What can I do?" sobbed the rabbit. "The fire is much too hot." "There's too much smoke," howled the wolf. "My wings will burn. My beak is too small," cried the owl. But the little hummingbird persisted. She flew to and fro, picking up more water and dropping it bead by bead onto the burning forest. Finally, the big bear said, "Little Duk-Duk-Dia, what are you doing?" Without stopping, Duk-Duk-Dia looked down at all the animals, and she said, "I am doing what I can." The parable ends there. I don't know what happens to the forest. It just ends. But I do know that that little hummingbird is doing everything that she can, even though it may feel like one bead of water at a time on this colossal fire. She's doing something. With that, I say thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are part of this community. We need you. We need you right now. It's getting a little warm, getting a little warm. I can feel that forest fire. We need help. We need help. And this is our, do I want to call it obligation? Maybe so. Our obligation. Maybe our obligation. I'd also call it our privilege. Our privilege to help out our neighbors, help out policymakers, public land managers, anyone that wants to maybe listen to us or interact with us. These are all opportunities. So we need you now more than ever. With that, I would love to take any questions, any comments. Real quick, if you're scared to ask me in person, here is my email address. I asked the state for the longest possible email address, and they gave it to me. So it is my name, sam.keischnick@tpwd.texas.gov. I'm also super active on iNaturalist. Sam Biology is my username. You can send me a message there. So with that, any questions or comments? Yes, Mary Beth. Sure. Yes. So I am crazy about iNaturalist. I am crazy about iNaturalist. For the past 7 years, over 7 years, 7.5 years, every day I go out and make an observation. For the past 7.5 years, I go out and make an observation. Even in February, when it was freaking freezing outside, I was making observations of stuff. I just passed 100,000 observations. And then sit down, please, stay seated, stay seated. But what's interesting, what I think is worthy of celebration here is not just my silly factor of 10 number of 100,000, but that we are so lucky, so GD lucky to live with all of these different species. So many different species. One of the things that I love to do, several folks love to do it with me, mothing. We go out at night and we put up little lights and we let stuff come. Sam Sidney, mothing. It is so much fun. It is so much fun. Zane, very good, buddy. It is so much fun to do this. But all of these things just exist. They just exist every single night. They're coming to your front door, just waiting for you to come out and look at them. In the same manner with iNaturalist, I've been doing it for a while now, making lots of observations. With each observation, it is engagement. I observe that thing, I engage with that critter, I recognize it exists, it lives on this planet just as I live on this planet, and it's a beautiful thing. So thank you for the accolades. Yes, 100,000. Yeah, you too can get 100,000 observations. Yeah, it's not a cult. It's not a cult. There are similarities. There's similarities. I'm a believer. You know, I go door to door with my iNaturalist pamphlets on days, but it is a fun tool. I hope you all get a chance to play with it. Anybody else have any other questions or comments? Again, full accolades to you all for being part of this. You know, the Master Naturalist, it's weird. You are paying for these classes. You are paying to be a volunteer. Did you think about that? It's weird. It's way weird. But man, thank you. It is the best experience. You'll find some true friends here. You are among your people. You are among your people here. And I'm looking forward to interacting with you all out in the field. All right, excellent. Mary Beth, do you have any other comments? Is a field trip coming up this weekend? No field trips this weekend. Next week. Oh, yeah. Yeah, please.
Definitely a really great presentation as always. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. I just have a couple quick things. I can remember one of them, but I can't remember. Oh, t-shirts. We have got t-shirts. It is not required by any stretch that you purchase a t-shirt, but if you're interested in purchasing a t-shirt, on our website, we're having t-shirt sale through August 31st. If you order before that, and they're like $13, and it's got the Cross Timbers Master Naturalist logo, and it says volunteer. So if you're interested, I'm telling you now, because after August 31st, there will be a hiatus before we have our next t-shirt sale. If you're interested, and it's on just the main CTMN.org, about halfway down the page, I think, is the link for that. The other thing I just want to reiterate to everybody that next week we're not here at the Botanic Gardens. From here on out, our Tuesday evening meetings are going to be at the Fort Worth Nature Center. So has everybody been to the Fort Worth Nature Center? Anybody that hasn't, doesn't know how to get there? Okay, if you have, I would recommend looking on Google Map, making sure you're ready, you know, you're familiar with how to get there. Sometimes the traffic in the afternoons can be a little bit rough on Tuesday, you know, during the weekdays. If you have any questions or any problems, please text me or call me, and I'll do my best to help you guys. If anybody wants to carpool, I mean, that's up to you guys. I believe you all maybe in your mentor group. I don't know. We tried to make our mentor groups in kind of geographical regions, so you might want to look into that. But from now on, for the rest of the Tuesday night classes, they're all going to be at the Fort Worth Nature Center at the Hardwick building, which the Hardwick Interpretive Center. So you go through the gate will be open. You just kind of follow. You go where you.
Go through the gatehouse. We'll see the gatehouse. There'll be a turn to the right. You
don't go to the right.
Straight.
Yeah.
And then the next right is what we'll check. You
yeah.
Follow it up. And then if there's not enough parking spaces, you can always park along the street going down.
Yeah. So if you have any questions or concerns, let me know. But I just want to make sure everybody's aware. The field trips the first 3 field trips may be at the Nature Center. I believe the first 2 will definitely be at the Nature Center, the aquatics and the forest. I'm not sure about prairie, and I'm not sure about an urban. We usually go to different locations in Arlington, like a group of different places. So so those won't be there, but the aquatics, forest field trip And all the Tuesday evening classes will be at the Nature Center. Because last year we had somebody that came here on the second class and they were unable to get to the Nature Center in time for class. So just want to make sure everybody knows. And does anybody have any questions for me? Log your time.
Send to class at CTMN.org
Mhm.
and ask the rest of the class if somebody wants to carpool.
Right. Yeah. Class at CTMN.org is now each year, as of like the first day of class, all of your email, now it's just for this class. So it's a group email.
CTMN.org.
.org. Oh, is it? Okay, CTMN 2022 at CTMN.org. Wait, class. Class 2022 at CTMN.org. We'll email you. But that's, you can communicate with each other, and then the training committee and I think Michael and the board, we're all on that same list. So if you have a question and you don't know who to ask, just send it to that and somebody will pick that up and see it. Exactly. There is a class Facebook page. And as far as, there we go. And as part of your recording of your hours, you'll need to record initial training in your VMS. If you're having any trouble with that, we can go through that next week at the next class. You have 45 days to record, but it's really good to do it quickly as soon as it occurs. So if you're able to log into VMS, no problem. You'll record your 3 hours tonight as initial training and under today's date. So for each class you go, that it's not considered volunteer or advanced training, it's just your initial training. So am I forgetting anything else? Anything else? Any other questions? Yes. It's just Michael will probably send a note out to the class that will give, well, I don't know who's doing yeah, it's Michael. He'll probably, well, actually, no, next week isn't aquatics. Next week is Rachel, ecology, general ecology. And she'll probably send out a note to the class that'll give a chapter in the book to look at. The instructors will generally do that before class. And just, bring a notebook and, or, pen and paper, take notes, and that's about it. Nothing really. Yeah.
When you say send out a note, it's not in the Facebook group, it's in an email. Okay.
We'll send it to, I don't do Facebook.
Neither do I. That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to make sure I don't miss anything.
So no, everything should go through CTMN, through class 2022 at CTMN.org. So you should receive something through that. And we'll make sure that all the instructors are aware of the new.
And if you're not getting it, let your mentor know and they can figure it out.
Or if you think you're missing something, check your junk folders. Anything else gonna help anybody with anything? Not you.